Thanks, Raquel, for joining today. Um, for those who don't know, Raquel is the founder and CEO of Waabi, a world-renowned expert within the field of AI. Raquel is pioneering the field of physical AI, starting with the most scalable and safest self-driving solution. Raquel is a full professor in the Department of Computer Science at the University of Toronto and co-founder of the Vector Institute for AI. Prior to founding Waabi, Raquel was the chief scientist and head of R&D at Uber ATG and a Canada Research Chair in machine learning and computer vision. One of the things we wanted to talk about with Raquel being here is the $1 billion round, but also just talking about Waabi in general and Waabi's journey. I've had the very fortunate opportunity to be connected to Raquel for the last decade and had a front seat from Waabi's initial creation to now. So I think it'd be wonderful to talk about Waabi itself and then the financing round that was just closed, which is one of the largest in Canadian history and a monumental event for the Canadian ecosystem, but of course Waabi more particularly.
So thank you, Chad. And I will say that I am the one that is fortunate to have to know, have the opportunity to know you for over a decade now. I think we are teaching ourselves here. And from when I was an academic and to, you were fundamental in terms of helping navigate what it was to transition into industry, to then transition to be an entrepreneur and really setting up myself and the company for the amazing success that we have had over the last 5 years and the incredible future ahead of us. So I would say that I always consider you an advisor that knows everything about everything as it relates to business, which is actually a really rare to have the rigor of law together with a very business mindset. And I consider you a friend as well. That we've been navigating, a lot of these, really fundamental moments in my life over the last 10 years. So, yeah, thank you for having me here, and thank you for everything that you have done.
Thank you very much, and I echo the same. I consider you a friend, and it's wonderful to have the opportunity to work with friends on something as consequential as Waabi to the future of tech in Canada. So just jumping into some questions, you describe Waabi as a physical AI company. So what does that actually mean for the viewers, and what makes your approach to building autonomous technology fundamentally different from the rest of the field and the competitive companies?
Yeah, so I think by physical AI, the way to think about it is really AI systems that interact with the physical world. And the canonical example is really robots, right? And one of the things that maybe not everybody realizes is that over the next 5 to 10 years, robots are going to be everywhere. And they're going to be able to really help us in everyday tasks. They're gonna help us to bring safety to roads, to bring so much economic value. It's like the new currency. It's not just digital AI; it's actually physical AI. What's going to be the new thing. So the Canada has a tremendous opportunity ahead in terms of really leading that revolution. And as it relates to Waabi, why we've been so successful, and it's really about we have a very differentiated technology, and this is very important as a startup. Is not just be one of many, but being the one at the forefront of that sector. And in particular, when I started Waabi, it was very contrarian. The idea of what I wanted to build. And this is 5 years ago. This is before, just for context, the ChatGPT moment. And it was this idea that you can build end-to-end AI systems to a single AI system that will be verifiable so you can prove safety, but at the same time will be able to reason like humans we do. So they can learn from very little data and can really act safely in the world. Together with this idea that data is super important for AI and you will never see enough in the real world, so you need to build a simulator that is as realistic as the real world. And this was at the time where everybody was building new systems, what we call AB 1.0 in the industry, raising billions of dollars and saying, yeah, it's here. Yes, I'm going to show you next month, right? If we, fast forward into the 5 years into the future, it's very clear that we were spot on in terms of this is a technology that truly will bring scale in a safe manner and in a capital efficient manner. And that only Waabi has this type of technology. So it really put us in an amazing position that this is why we were able to raise $1 billion in about 3 months, right? Something like this, Chad. Um, and is really by building something and being ahead of the pack in terms of what will be that future. But it was very, very contrarian. And you fast forward, as I said, into today, many of the companies that were almost there are not here anymore.
Yeah. So just talking about that financing round, the company announced it closed, up to a US $1 billion round. It's one of the largest in Canadian history. It was also oversubscribed. It was closed in a quarter and had some of the most sophisticated investors in the world participating in the round. What do you think they saw in Waabi and convinced them this was the right moment to invest in a company like Waabi and the autonomous vehicle space?
Mhm. Yeah, I would say that there was a clear realization that physical AI and self-driving in particular is here and it's now. So there was it's not anymore an if. It's really this is really going to happen. And then the question is about who do they believe that will actually win this many $1 trillion race? Towards that I would say broad adoption. And when you look at the technology differentiation and this next generation super powerful AI technology, Waabi was fully set apart compared to anybody else. The fact that we've been able to hit every single milestone on time and under budget in a field like self-driving where there's a lot of lost promises and whatnot was tremendously important as well. The commercial traction, our partnership with Volvo, where we are soon to deploying fully driverless on public roads for the first time in the industry with a fully validated platform, and the amazing pipeline of customers of many, many billions of dollars, right, that we have behind. That was also very important for investors, and uh, the fact that when you look at the future, really in trucking, Waabi is the clear winner on that race. Is what attracted, best in class across whether it's strategics, whether it is financial investors, growth investors, etc. And obviously the Canadian ecosystem that was very important for me in particular to make sure that we have enough Canadian participation on the cap table. And I would say that the last bit that was a cherry on top was this the fact that for the first time we can actually do not just one form factor, not just our self-driving trucks, but we are also entering robotaxis, and it's the same brain that is actually going to do both use cases. So suddenly, for the first time ever, you can actually have a single technology, our physical AI platform, that can drive different, all of these different form factors. And then is a massive accelerator in terms of another $5 trillion market, right? And build this disruptor for Waymo as well. So that was massive, and it came with a massive partnership with Uber. The largest, I think, partnership in robotaxi history, right? Where Uber committed to deploy a minimum of 25,000 robotaxis, right? So when you put all this together, you have the the leading technology in trucking. You're entering robotaxi, a massive opportunity. You have it's existential for Uber. You have all the power of Uber behind, and this massive deal, etc. It was too good to pass on for these investors.
And with the capital, how do you see that accelerating Waabi's essentially their development of the company from both a self-driving trucking perspective and a robotaxi perspective?
Mhm. Yeah, so we are definitely gonna put the 1 billion to use, and in particular, we are tripling down on trucking. Right, this is the year of commercialization. Right, this is where you fast forward 2-3 years, it's a massive revenue for us. Right, and yes, massive revenue opportunity for us, and we want to make sure that first mover advantage in terms of commercialization, that we really capture all that funnel. So that's where we're going to focus, a big part of that, and then entering robotaxis. Now, the good news is that we are so capital efficient that actually that billion for Waabi makes us the most stable player ever in this field, right? So we can, and this is, I also have been asked this question: didn't you raise too much? Well, no. What we raise is such, it's such that we can design our destiny. We are not really, unlike our competitors, we are not at the mercy of, Wall Street and whatnot, and investors and this and show progress every quarter, and then compromise safety and other things that they're doing, and then really not having the time to really invest in terms of this next stage of growth of the company. So it puts us in an incredible position, and with the growth ahead of us is just massive, right? There's many folks that uh, have said that the next $1 trillion company, including Jensen himself, right? Now, the next $1 trillion company is probably going to be physical AI, and we have good opportunity to actually bring that to Canada for the first time, and you can imagine what that could be, for the country.
It'd be incredibly exciting for the entire country and for the ecosystem as a whole. In terms of the next stage of the company, what do you feel are the biggest challenges for Waabi as it looks to scale and looks to bring these technologies to the road?
Yeah, what is really exciting now is that things have been massively de-risked. Technology is here and it's ready. The hardware piece, the OEM platforms are also ready. And they have been invested billions of dollars and 5 to 10 years, depending on the OEM, into bringing this to the point that it is today. When you look at the regulatory landscape in the US, it's also very open. And we see with the current administration to even be, they're definitely all behind trying to ease the deployment of this technology. And I will say that it's very clear that the product that we have built, which is also differentiated from others, which allow us to really go from customer location to wherever the customer wants to be, instead of just doing terminals and other things, is really what they want as the right product for their business, because they don't want to change the way they move freight today. Right, so we have all the ingredients, and it's really about, which is fantastic, right? It's an amazing place to be. It's really about continue and being very diligent and being very, heads down on execution. And that's where Waabi truly excels, right? Is that don't get confused with the noise out there, and just continue to execute, continue to build the best product to market that truly solves what the customers want. And then we get a bit bounded by number of trucks for the foreseeable future in terms of how much we will be able to sell, because the OEM production will ramp up over the next 2-3 years. But it's very clear that we will be able to really sell our solution at the scale. So it's really about just continue to focus on what we need to do, and which is as I said, an amazing place to be. And then I always say that we shouldn't overestimate ourselves. We should overestimate everybody else, underestimate ourselves, and just continue to innovate and continue to get better and better and better. And that's kind of like who Waabi is. So from that point of view, we are in a very, very exciting position.
And definitely exciting. Want to wrap up with one final question. You've gone from basically incorporation to one of the largest fundraisers in Canadian history in a span of 5 years. What lessons have you learned and that you could pass on to the next generation of founders, and in particular ones that are working in deep tech?
Yeah, plenty. I would say, and yeah, I didn't know what I was getting in when I when I actually decided to be a founder. And you're laughing, Chad. You didn't tell me what it really was.
A lot of fun.
But but I would say the number one quality, I think, is grit. is no matter how successful you are, it's a startup. There is ups and downs all the time, and you really need to plow through mountains and to bring everybody along in your journey. So surround yourself by the best, empower your team, show by example how they should behave, and the dedication, the mission driven, and then believe on your vision that should be differentiated, and then be super religious about capital and execution. And I think those have been some of the key. I will say I've been very data driven, scientific about everything that we do, and being very, I would say, also humble in terms of who we are, and build an environment in a culture where everybody, no matter how junior you are, the best ideas always win. I think those have been, some of the key ingredients or elements, and how you merge research and engineering so that it's a single path to build something so transformative, have been things very, very useful. But I would say if I were to pick one, grit. So definitely as a founder, oh my God, that's the one.
Well, that's super helpful. Want to thank you very much for joining me today and answering these questions. I hope everybody listening found this incredibly illuminating, and thank you again. It's been an amazing ride, and I can't wait for the next 5 years.
Same here, Chad. I can't wait for all the things that we're going to accomplish together. And you have such an impact in who Waabi is today. So much to be proud.
Thanks very much.